The courtroom erupted into absolute chaos. Family members lunged forward, voices screaming, fists flying as court marshals scrambled to restore order. This wasn't supposed to happen here, not in a place meant for justice and measured deliberation. But when you're face to face with the person accused of brutally taking away someone you love, sometimes grief and rage become impossible to contain. Just 24 hours earlier, a young mother had been stabbed 9 times in a hallway while her 3-year-old child was inside their apartment. Now, as the accused was being let out after his bond hearing, the raw pain of that loss exploded in ways no one could have predicted. If you're already feeling the weight of this story and you want to stay connected to cases like this that demand attention and justice, do me a solid right now. Hit that like button, subscribe to She's Alive, and smash that bell icon hard, because every notification you get means another story gets told, another victim gets remembered, and another conversation about justice continues. Missing out means these cases fade into the background when they should be front and center. Let's make sure that doesn't happen. December 30th, 2025 started like any other Tuesday morning in East Haven, Connecticut. The Foxon Woods apartment complex was quiet, residents going about their usual routines. Destiny Rumley was 21 years old, a young mother trying to build a life for herself and her 3-year-old child. Not much has been shared publicly about who Destiny was as a person, the dreams she held, or the daily joys and struggles of her life. What we know is that she lived in that apartment complex and was in a relationship with 21-year-old Tyreek Black, though family members have made clear that Black was not the father of her child. East Haven sits along the Connecticut shoreline, a town of roughly 30,000 people, where violent incidents like what happened that morning are thankfully rare. It's the kind of place where neighbors know each other, where people raise families and expect a certain level of safety. That sense of security was shattered at approximately 8:10 in the morning when multiple 911 calls flooded into the East Haven Police Department. Callers reported a man attacking a woman in the hallway of the apartment building. The calls were frantic, desperate, describing a scene of violence unfolding in real time. What makes this case even more chilling is that Tyreek Black himself also called 911. He told dispatchers directly that he had stabbed Destiny. According to prosecutors who would later present evidence in court, the attack was triggered by something shockingly simple. Destiny said she was going to call the police. That statement, that decision to reach out for help, became the spark that led to unimaginable violence. Black stabbed her 9 times, striking her trunk, her extremities, and her head. The attack was vicious and relentless. When officers arrived at the scene within minutes, they found Black standing in the doorway of the apartment. A large knife lay nearby in the hallway, the weapon that had just been used to inflict those devastating wounds. But the situation was far from over. Black refused to cooperate with officers and locked himself inside the apartment. This created an entirely new crisis because Destiny's 3-year-old child was still inside with him. Think about that for a second. A child who had just witnessed or heard something absolutely terrifying was now trapped with the person accused of attacking their mother. Officers couldn't just wait this out. They made the split-second decision to smash through a window and physically extract the child from the apartment. Thankfully, the little one was not physically harmed, but you have to wonder what kind of psychological scars that morning left behind. What does a 3-year-old brain do with memories like that? While officers worked to secure Black and get him into custody, Destiny was rushed to Yale New Haven Hospital. Medical teams fought to save her life, but the injuries were too severe. She had been stabbed multiple times in critical areas of her body. The medical examiner would later confirm what everyone already feared. Destiny Rumley died from her wounds, and the manner of death was ruled a homicide. A young woman who woke up that morning, probably made breakfast for her child, probably had plans for the day ahead, was gone. Just like that, her child would grow up without a mother. Her family would never hear her voice again. Black didn't make things easy during his arrest either. According to police reports, he became combative with officers as they tried to take him into custody. This wasn't someone showing remorse or cooperating with the process. He was charged with murder, assault on police, interfering with an emergency call, and risk of injury to a minor. That last charge stemmed from the fact that a young child was present during this horrific act of violence. Police classified the incident as domestic violence, confirming that Black and Rumley had been in a dating relationship, though investigators were still working to clarify exactly what their living arrangements were and how long they had been together. Here's what we need to talk about for a minute. Domestic violence doesn't always announce itself with clear warning signs that everyone can see. Sometimes it builds slowly, hidden behind closed doors. We don't yet know if there were previous incidents between Destiny and Black, whether friends or family had concerns, or if this eruption of violence caught everyone completely off guard. What we do know is that this relationship ended in the most tragic way possible. One argument, one threat to call for help, and a life was taken. The next day, December 31st, Black appeared before Judge Patrick Clifford for his arraignment. His initial bond had been set at $2 million, which is already substantial, but after reviewing the details of the case, Judge Clifford increased it to $2.5 million. The judge didn't mince words. He described the police report as very disturbing to read and pointed to the sheer brutality of what had allegedly occurred. This wasn't a simple assault or a fight that got out of hand. This was, according to the evidence presented, a sustained and vicious attack that left a young mother dead. Black's public defender offered some context about his client's background during the proceedings. Now I'm going to play for you the full court proceedings so you can hear exactly what unfolded in that courtroom and understand the raw emotions that led to that explosive confrontation.
So this is the arraignment of State versus Tyreek Black. Appoint the public defender.
Yes, sir.
All right, the public defender is appointed. Bail commissioner's recommendation.
Your Honor.
I will indicate, first of all, it's an on-site arrest. I did read through the report, and I will clearly make a finding of probable cause for the crimes, including the crime of murder. Go ahead.
Your Honor, he has no criminal history. He is 21 years old. He is a lifelong resident. He reports that he is gainfully employed. He does report substance abuse and mental health issues. I do understand that he has no record. However, due to the nature of allegations, we will be recommending $1 million.
How much?
$1 million.
Thank you. State?
Your Honor, in this incident, the defendant is charged with murder. The defendant called police, said that he had stabbed the victim. He further said that it was a couple of times. When officers arrived, he refused to open the door and threatened the officers that he could stab them if they entered. There was a 3-year-old child present for this incident. The defendant fought with officers, and the victim suffered 9 deep puncture wounds. Safely said bond should remain at $2 million.
Counsel?
Thank you, Your Honor. As stated by bail, Mr. Black is 21 years old, grew up in Hamden, Connecticut. He's been a native of our state his entire life. He attended school, graduated from ACES, and as stated, he has no criminal record. Your Honor, Mr. Black is truly a product of his environment, his upbringing. His background consists mostly of depending on state benefits, grew up in foster care, multiple ineffective DCF involvements. Lack of guidance and support led Mr. Black down the trail of mental health issues. He has multiple diagnoses, including PTSD, multiple stays at inpatient services, outpatient services, and many prior suicide attempts. Even though through all this turmoil in his life, he was trying. Prior to this incident, he was working part-time in Wallingford as a flagger. He had recently completed programs of treatment and was doing well. Mr. Black is also extremely remorseful for this incident. We ask that you take that into consideration when setting the bond for Mr. Black.
Well, he is 21 years of age. I guess he does not have any previous record. Is that correct?
No, Your Honor.
I mean, obviously, I read through the report. It is, I know he's emotional right now, but it's a very disturbing report to read when people are calling the police, indicating someone is screaming and asking or requesting help, and then he called actually the police and indicated, quote, "I just stabbed my bitch," close quote. The police were able to get the child, I guess, out through a window, the 3-year-old. He finally let the police in, according to the report. And I believe the defendant, even down at the station, did not disagree. She was calling the police because he had made an oral threat. And as a result of her attempting to call the police is when he admits that he took out a knife and he did stab her. It does indicate, as the state said, that it looks like there was a number of numerous wounds on the victim. The victim was alive when the police were there, but obviously she succumbed to these injuries. Also sounds like they had a prior relationship some time ago, and there was some attempt over the last few weeks, according to the defendant, to rekindle it. But certainly calls for a serious bond, a domestic homicide or someone. I'll set the bond at the $2.5 million at this particular time. It's going to be transferred over to Part A. After the serious cases go through 35 Church Street, I'm going to transfer it over there for January 14th. The bond is set without prejudice. Certainly, if you're going to get a public defender over there, they would have the right to argue the bond again over there. But January 14th would be the next date at 235 Church Street. All right, thank you.
Yeah, your brother gonna die out of the
Black had lived in Connecticut his entire life, and surprisingly had no prior criminal record. His upbringing had been unstable. He spent time in multiple foster homes, never really having a consistent family structure. He struggled with mental health issues, specifically PTSD, and had battled substance abuse. There had been previous attempts to take his own life. Now, does any of that excuse what happened to Destiny? Absolutely not. But it does give us a glimpse into the complexity of the person standing accused. What happened next in that courtroom? Well, you already saw how that began. As Black was being escorted out of the courtroom by marshals, Destiny's family members could no longer hold back the storm of emotions they had been trying to contain. They rushed forward, attempting to confront the man accused of taking their loved one away from them forever. The courtroom descended into complete disorder. Voices rose, people pushed and shoved, and what should have been a controlled legal proceeding turned into a scene that required multiple court-martials to intervene and separate everyone involved. Can you blame them, though? Imagine sitting there, hearing the details of how someone you love was killed, seeing the person responsible standing right there in front of you, and being expected to just sit quietly and let the system handle it. The human heart doesn't always cooperate with courtroom protocols. That confrontation became its own headline. But underneath all that chaos is a family absolutely shattered by loss. Destiny's cousin Angel Hubbard, who serves as a New Haven Ward 3 alder, now has to navigate public life while grieving privately.
Her child was there. Now we have to end 2025 and mourning and grieving instead of celebrating 2026.
Angel Hubbard is Rumley's cousin, at a loss for words, trying to process the fact that her family member was stabbed to death by a man she says she hardly even knew.
This is a shock to the family. Like, who is this character? Because you can't even call him a person. For someone of this horrendous act, you're not even a person. So it's a character. Brutally stabbed her. What justice can we get? Even if he got life, no, seriously, what justice can we really get? We can't get our loved one back.
There's a long road ahead for Hubbard and her family. They have so many unanswered questions and say justice is something they'll never truly feel.
There's nothing that he can give as a reason for this, as a reason why now her mother tears gotta water the cemetery ground.
The ripples from this tragedy extend far beyond just one apartment hallway in East Haven. This is a family that will never be whole again, a child who will grow up asking questions about their mother that no one should have to answer at such a young age, and a community forced to reckon with the reality that domestic violence can turn deadly in an instant. The case against Tyreek Black is still in its earliest stages. He remains held on that $2.5 million bond, which realistically means he's not going anywhere while this moves through the court system. Prosecutors will build their case using the evidence collected from the scene, the 911 calls, witness statements from neighbors who heard or saw what happened, and the medical examiner's findings. Black's defense team will have to navigate the incredibly difficult task of representing someone who allegedly called 911 himself to report what he had done. The trial, when it happens, will likely be months away, and during that time more details will emerge about what exactly transpired between Destiny and Black in the moments before she was killed. We also have to zoom out and look at the bigger picture here. Domestic violence remains one of the leading causes of death for women in relationships. It doesn't discriminate based on income, education, race, or geography. It happens in small Connecticut towns, just as it happens in major cities. The National Domestic Violence Hotline receives thousands of calls every single day from people trapped in situations that feel impossible to escape. Destiny said she was going to call the police. That's what you're supposed to do when you feel unsafe. That's the step everyone tells you to take. And it cost her everything. How do we as a society create systems where calling for help doesn't become the trigger for escalation? How do we identify relationships heading toward violence before they reach the point of no return? Here are the questions I want you to sit with and maybe discuss down in the comments. What could have been done differently in the hours, days, or weeks leading up to December 30th to prevent this outcome? When you hear about someone's troubled past, their mental health struggles, their unstable upbringing, where's the line between understanding context and holding someone fully accountable for their choices? And if you were Destiny's family member sitting in that courtroom, do you honestly think you could have kept your composure? This story matters because Destiny Rumley mattered. Her life had value, her child needed her, her family loved her. If this case has affected you, if you think others need to hear about it, share this video. Drop your thoughts in the comments because conversations like this are how we keep pushing for change. If you haven't subscribed to She's Alive yet, now's the time. Hit that button, turn on notifications, and stick around because we're going to keep covering cases that need attention, stories that demand justice, and conversations that can't be ignored. Check out the other videos on the channel because every case we cover represents a real person, a real family, and a real need for answers. Let's keep talking about this. Let's keep demanding better. Thanks for watching.